Welcome, everybody. Hello, hello. Oh, my goodness. Hi, Linda. Hi, everyone. I haven't seen some of you in a little bit. This is so exciting and this is great. Wow, this is going to be a purposeful treat today. Very, very, I want to say apropos the timing, and today is summer solstice. A very powerful day. And pretty soon I'll introduce Jo, who is a crystal herself. And by the time she starts talking and by the time she's done, you're definitely going to see that for sure and hear that. So now we are in a process of our power being restored. Okay. It is really powerfully being restored. Maybe in the past, we have given our power over to people, places, things, situations, whatever is in our head. But there's so much breaking up right now in everybody's lives. Not one stone is going to be unturned for us to see our truth, for us to heal through whatever it is. It's coming, it keeps coming sharp, fast. So if there are cobwebs you used to get caught on, let me tell you, they're all coming down. All right. We're having the chance, we're having the opportunity of such a powerful shift and change that is going on inside of us this summer solstice day, in preparation of the solar flare that they keep coming. Everything is amping up. But what I mean is truth and light is being shown, and it's going to be shown quicker and stronger. This is going to completely help our immune system. It's going to help every aspect of all of our lives, whether it's all the lifetimes as much as even until now, the power that you are embracing within yourself, even now. And we get to, I want to just mention briefly what Rumi wrote years ago. He said, the womb is the place where light enters you. The womb. So this, even in the womb, when you were in your mother's womb, this is where the light came in. The light comes in the darkness, in the dark times. That's what can really activate the light. And you'll hear in talking and hearing some of what is getting shared, that Jo is going to share with us about crystals. In interviewing her prior in some of our conversations, I heard information about crystals I had no idea. I had no idea to the degree how powerful they are here to help us on every imaginable level, even the earth. And shortly before we went on here with the class, I heard some would seem shocking information. I had some information shared with me that required me to take immediate action on something. And I went down to Jo. She brought in these massive, beautiful crystals. And I put one in my left hand, one in my right hand. And, right now, it just feels all centered. What a difference. So I have to say, of all my years being exposed to natural healing, I have never been exposed to the information of crystals and how powerful and alive they are. So I'm going to introduce you, Jo. I want to thank you for joining us today. I want to thank you for all your wisdom, your knowledge. And so what Jo is going to share with us today, for example, her 101 class on crystals, her basic class she teaches on crystals is 22 hours long just for the one class. Okay. And she has a whole protocol of things, which is so impressive. The other thing that we've made the decision on with Miracles of Health is we're going to start putting crystals by our products as well. And we're also going to be she'll be having some more classes on this through the company. Also, we're going to be carrying certain crystals, and we're going to be going to our first gem show coming up first part of July. We're going to look at, and again, why? Because this is to amplify the healing of the world. So Joe's going to bring it in on a level that you can, you'll know today some things that you might want to start doing with the crystals and how fast this is going to change things. So Joe, would you share a little bit about your background, because you are not new to this rodeo by no means, and I'm honored to have you speak here today.
Well, thank you, Judy, and I'm honored to be a part of it. You know, I adore you and your products. Judy guest speaks for me all the time at the college, and this is my way of giving back. My name is Jo Yaromy. I am the director of the Integrative Health Program at the local community college, where I have been talking about alternative means to healing since creating this program. Somebody initially created, I would say, I always say they gave birth to this beautiful little baby, and then tragically, I had to come in to be its surrogate when it was in its brand new infancy. And then I helped to raise it and watch it become, we're crawling and a toddler and then walking, and now it's running, and we're all over the country and doing things. So it is an amazing thing that I think people are tuning in and tuning on to the fact that there is other means of healing, and there needs to be other means of healing, especially right now. From the time I was a kid, my mom told me, and I remember doing it, I was an outdoor nature junkie. I was a little tomboy, wanted to be climbing trees, playing in the river, but I was always picking up stones. I would find these unique stones and even basic river rocks, and I would talk to them like they were talking to me and giving me information, and I would name them. And I had little things in my room with rocks all the time. And my mom would always have to check before she put my clothes in laundry, because I would have rocks in my pocket, and I still do that. But they're much fancier rocks now. So it's always been something that I've just been a part of. It's always just been a part of me. Nature in general, Mother Nature. It's funny because up until recently, I was told, because I didn't know a lot about my father's side, that I had some Native American Indian on my father's side, and that I was always wishing I knew more details. And it made sense because I don't look like, other than maybe the schnoz, a lot of my mom's side. So my skin gets darker, and my attunement with nature and everything else, I'm very much the odd duck or the black sheep. And yet I did one of those little genetic tests kind of on a whim. Somebody else encouraged me, and they didn't find any. And I thought, how interesting. But somehow, with whatever it is, and maybe it's a past life and whatever else, and it's just not in this particular DNA lineage, I've always been really in touch with things that nature and Mother Nature has given us. And to me, rocks, crystals, minerals, they are different, offer so much. They're non-invasive. They're, you can't, OD on them. You can't be addicted to them. Well, I could say I would differ because I am kind of addicted. I spend a lot of money and time on rocks and crystals, but not in that sense. And I just think right now there is so many shifts going on the planet astrologically, that I think we need to get more in tune with the things that are the natural, the stones and the plants like Judy does, and the things that we really need to get in touch with that and get away from our dependency on chemicals and synthetics and artificial this and artificial that. And I think you'll find that while crystals may be thought of as such as a woo-woo type of thing, there is scientific backing, there is historical backing. And I'll wait and see all the questions that Judy's going to ask me, but there is a lot more to this. And there's a lot now coming out where there's research being done, and we have machines that can look at our insides. Well, it can also look at the insides of stones, and it can also measure energy, and it can also measure frequency, and can also show, light rays and gamma rays and everything else. So there's a lot more to this. So I'm thrilled to talk about it. Condensing it into 40 minutes is going to be challenging, but at least it'll give you a taste, and then we'll see what comes next.
Thanks, Joe. And I'll mention we're going to leave a little time at the end so you can ask Joe some questions, okay? Because I think we'll all have some really, really good questions. Joe, a number several times I've had people come in the Healy room, use the bio canisters and bed situations that we have here, all kind of healing stuff. And I bring out the crystals. I have crystals around, and they'll say this is a common response, but it's not mentioned in the Bible. So, it's not really, I can't do it. It's not that good. And, wow, I'd love for you to address this and a little bit of the science behind this.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's what I was kind of just alluding to. People seem to think somehow crystals is some sort of like magic, black magic or something, or dark magic. And if anything, it's the exact opposite. As you'll find out, the science behind crystals and what is known as the piezoelectric theory is definitely very scientific, as it's all based on light. But crystals themselves, gemstones, are mentioned over 200 times in the Bible, predominantly in the Old Testament. Exodus in particular is where the brother of Moses, Aaron, he was the first to start and say, to adorn that, what he displayed as a shield, that crystals would add protection, and that he picked 12 of the most prominent, amazing at the time gemstones that were known: rubies and garnets and emeralds and sapphires and diamonds. And those 12 stones, because they represent, the 12, what he thought of the elements of protection, the 12 hours in a basic day, in terms of 12 and 12, a 12 a day and 12 at night, 12 months in a year. That's how we came up with birthstones. Now, birthstones, the stones themselves, were not equated. Like, there wasn't a reason why April was maybe given diamond. That's my birthstone. I personally do not like diamonds. I know that's kind of funny to hear, but when I hold a diamond, when I've had friends show me their rings or whatever else, most of the time, not every time, but most of the times, it feels like it burns my hand or it screams, because I think diamonds have been mined with such greed behind them and ripped out of the earth, not given to us from the earth, which I'll explain how that happens, that there is something behind that. And if I could ever conduct my own research that would show how many divorces happen with people who are given a diamond that say, here is a symbol of my eternal love, and that diamond has such negative, fearful, horrific, whatever energy contained in it because of what it went through and how it was chiseled down or whatever was done, and end up in divorce, compared to ones that maybe were more naturally found, or even now the lab generated diamonds don't quite have the same energetic lattice. I don't know. I think it'd be a fascinating research. But like I said, gems have been in every ancient civilization, from the Mayans to the Aztecs to the Egyptians. Everything was talked about with certain gems and crystals, and what was learned, like I said, whether it was even in the Dark Ages and putting on, literally a shield and a sword and your shield. There were things that they felt crystals did. They were a symbol not only of royalty or a symbol of, elegance and whatever else, beauty and whatever, but of energy, of protection. And that's what kind of they're known for. So that idea that they are, again, some sort of dark magic or whatever else, not at all. Like I said, Mother Earth gives us some really unique gifts when we need them. A lot of times certain stones come to the surface when we need them most and in the most unique ways. For instance, one of the ones that I brought in just to show some of these people, that's kind of a newer one of the last decade, is bumblebee jasper. It's a very unique stone with these bright yellows, but it's basically a hematite mix, but it has a lot of sulfur and arsenic in it. So you have to be careful, again, and I'll explain that in a minute. But the reason we have it is because of a massive volcano eruption over in Hawaii, and then another one on the other side of the planet. And some of these stones, that's what happens when there's been a natural disaster, sometime when there's been a man-made disaster or man-made stripping of more land, or mining things and digging up for another new building. Things all of a sudden come to the surface. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think kind of Mother Earth does that when we need things. Lemurian seed crystals, very much people think from Lemuria, but all of a sudden when they started being found and the power that was behind them, again, from ancient civilizations and what they can do. So I think there's a really unique, again, gift being done from that. So to think that they are somehow not good energy or fake, like I said, there's a lot of science behind crystals.
What about the difference between the raw and the polish? This is fascinating.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot, and I used to have people all the time. I worked in a store and people would often say, oh, I only want to do the raw crystals because they're the real ones, not the polished or tumbled stones. The reason most stones are tumbled or polished is in part, yes, it does bring out some of the enhanced beauty. Like you get to see some of the very unique, for instance, characteristic swirls of something like malachite, one of the most powerful healing stones, like turquoise, used a lot by native indigenous tribes in jewelry, etc. But malachite, when it's polished, not only can you see it, but it protects the person who's holding it. When a stone is polished or tumbled and it's not raw, you don't have the flakes or the powders or something unless it cracks if you break it. And when you do, malachite itself has a high concentration of copper. Now people say, oh, but copper, that's not a bad thing. If it's in its raw form, and it's not, again, like where you're buying like a copper bracelet, something that's been formed and whatever else, it can be toxic to our system. There are stones that have high levels of arsenic, lead, sulfur, aluminum. Again, so tumbled is just merely a protection. There is no difference in the energetic qualities. There's no difference in the energetic properties. The lattice and the chemical composition, for instance, of quartz, silicon dioxide, is not different whether or not you're looking at a raw piece or a raw point as opposed to one that's been polished. Sometimes it's for comfort, obviously people who again, back in olden times, including in the Bible, the laying on of hands and the laying on of stones has been documented. Whether you want to say, well, that's became modern day Reiki or healing touch or whatever, maybe. And then the use of stones again. And so to place them on or to ask somebody to hold them, obviously when they're pointed and jagged or dropping stuff on you. And if you happen to get the powder, not only can it soak in through your skin, but if you're, say you're multitasking and you're eating at the same time, whether you're back in the day or now, then you're ingesting some of that too. And so really no energetic difference whatsoever in raw and polished. So people who think only raw stones become more, they're more real or they're more powerful. That is not true.
Okay, so another myth, because when we were talking today, you really have brought to my mind some of the things I've wondered about too, whether a crystal is small or whether it's large. Is it less powerful if it's small or more powerful if it's larger?
Yeah, again, not in all things does size matter, contrary to popular beliefs. No, actually, it's not. In fact, some of the stones, if you think about things like some of the diamonds, or whatever else, Herkimer diamonds, more natural diamonds again, or things that have come up, they are powerful gemstone. The quality of the stone or the concentration of the stone, like how much is around it. Like when you take something out of the earth, like this is an amazing piece. If you look at the back, it's very boring. This is how it looked. But as soon as you flip it around, this is a raw piece. And it's layered. It's hard to tell, I know. But this is pink cobaltian calcite. And the size of a stone, whether you're wearing it as a pendant or whether you're putting it in, size larger, decoration. It's more artistic. Yes, it can be striking. It can be beautiful. It can be something that, a showpiece in a home or in an office or in a museum. The power from the stone is not. The power is also the intention behind it. So a lot of people often ask me, well, aren't crystals just, they're just pretty rocks and, there's no real therapeutic properties. You can't say, and it's hard to find research that'll say this stone does this stone. But I beg to differ because it's the intention you put behind it. It may be a placebo, but that's what a placebo is mind over matter. If I pick up, I don't know, say a piece of fluorite, okay, and this is a beautiful tower or blisk of fluorite, and I hold it and I put my intention that this stone, because of what I've known about fluorite, that it's one known as the ancient Chinese healer of cancer, because they say the green connects to the heart chakra and emotions, the purple connects to the crown chakra, and then the rays of white and clarity in there connects you to the divine. And when your emotions are in alignment with your thoughts and vice versa, and you're connected to the divine source, you can create and promote any kind of healing. So they call this the ancient Chinese healer of cancer, but it's probably of any disease. But if I believe that, when I pick up that stone and I say, okay, fluorite, please help me with this. And I've given tons of pieces of fluorite and bracelets to friends of mine who are going through chemo and radiation and whatever else to help offset the negative things that come from those, even if they are choosing to do a traditional treatment, but to also then amplify that treatment. I believe that even with that thought, we are powerful beings. We are energetic beings. People talk about medicine all the time as if medicine is simply surgery and pharmaceuticals. That's allopathic medicine. That's been the last, 100, 150 or so years. What was before that was homeopathic medicine, herbal medicine. We lived off the ground. We lived off the plants. We lived off, whatever. Then we finally went to this whole chemical, synthetic, surgical, whatever. Not that I'm denouncing technology and what we've been able to do, but we forgot the other piece of what medicine is, which is also that interpersonal connection, that interpersonal touch. The fact that we have somebody like Judy who puts so much attention, not only to quality of product, but the intention and the love and the energy that goes into everything that she makes. That right there brings now into a more holistic approach. Now we're in a more integrative approach where we're trying to say, okay, let's honor these ancient traditions. Let's honor these natural approaches and the best of what we can get from a more modern approach and bring them together so we can kind of have the best of both worlds. What we're going to be in a few years, I'll probably have to change the name of my program again, that we're already seeing it, is quantum health. Quantum health is all about energy. There's totally non-invasive. It's totally low cost because we're going to be able to learn how to do things for ourselves. And we're going to be tapped in to, I believe, other sources of vibration, including crystals that are one of the things that they're saying are going to really start to, just like we're seeing now with Reiki being shown in hospitals and Reiki, and healing touch being amazing things with oncology patients, et cetera. We're going to start to see energetic medicine, just like Carolyn Miss has been saying, that Donna Eden's been saying, a lot of Tesla himself. That's going to be now the whole new way. We're going to see another whole shift in medicine and things that will be used like crystals, something that quote unquote simple, that will enhance all the other things we're doing. They're putting now crystals, we have quartz in watches. That's the piezoelectric theory of what it can do. We're going to see it in surgical instruments. We're going to have stones next to herbal products and other things. And I mean, put a few stones right now in your house plants, especially if they're not looking so good. Watch what happens to those plants. So, I mean, it's changing rapidly, is more than I can even say. I could just keep talking. So Judy, just
I know. This is so exciting. I love it. I love it. I hope all of you are getting as much out of this as I am. Okay, now to cover some basic information, because there's been different schools of thought of how to clean your crystals. Then we're going to go into more of the details specifically about some of the crystals, chakras, and healing. And then I'd love for you to share a story about your own fibromyalgia too, and some things like that. So let's cover what you know is best of how to take care of your crystals and cleanse them.
Cleansing and recharging them. One of the other myths and misnomers that I've heard for a long time, that I hope if anybody here has been doing this or whatever, just go, is that the best way to cleanse crystals is with salt. Submerge your crystals in salt or put them in, if need be, in salt water. No, that would be like me telling you, okay, you have an open cut and a wound. Here, let me help you. I'm going to get some salt water and pour it in that wound. That's what it would be like. Crystals are living things. Okay. Salt is abrasive. Salt does not cleanse it. Okay. It shocks it, but it does not cleanse it. So the best thing you can do to cleanse crystals are do other natural things to help bring them back. For instance, saging, smudging, sage, Palo Santo, sweetgrass, frankincense, really some really great Nag Champa, certain scents. By saging over the crystals, you can do by carefully putting, having your essential oils, again, as long as they're not perfumed oils, that they're really essential oils, in a diffuser. Put your crystals just around where the diffuser is going. Some of the other things that you can do that are even more natural: running water, stream water, not tap water, or bottled water where you're just kind of pouring it. Like, I believe it or not, this is one of Joe's secrets, and I can't believe I'm sharing this. I have a salad spinner that I've never once used for salad. I put a few stones in there and I carefully put my bottled water, and then I just carefully pull my little thing that's supposed to be like a salad spinner to take the water off your lettuce. And you should see how different they look. As soon as I take the lid off, I can tell. So I've used spring water or distilled water, natural water. The other thing, of course, is the sun and the moonlight. Now, there's certain stones you don't want to put in the sun. because they'll fade. So your amethysts and some of those, you want to be careful. You also never want to put a sphere in the sun, especially quartz. It'll explode if it gets to a certain heat, because the atoms and again, going back to the science, the piezoelectric, the lattice of a quartz, especially depending on what type of quartz, it can shatter like a piece of glass. But certain ones you can put like in a sunny window or something like that, even for 20 or 30 minutes. Or as most people have heard, moonlight. The full moon, put them all out there. It doesn't matter which stone, put them on a deck, put them whatever else, put them in different things and let them bathe in the moonlight. Those are always great. I mean, there's so many different things like that you can do. If you're worried that your stone has absorbed a lot of negativity, or you've been using it in sessions, or you yourself have been using it, like my friends coming out of, radiation chemo, they've had some of them just break. That means they kind of got overexhausted and they just will shatter literally, and say, I can't do anymore. But if you can get it before you get to that point, put it in uncooked brown rice. Get a nice little container, your nice little basic, glass container or something, better than plastic Tupperware, to be honest, unless it's EPA free. Put some just organic brown rice in it, uncooked, and just submerge them in that. That's going to do way better than salt. It will absorb some of that negativity, and then you can just dispose of the salt. And then again, just carefully cleanse and rinse off the crystals, or put them back in the earth. If you have an area that you have good soil, or you buy a thing of organic soil that has not been treated with anything else, and you have a special pot that you never put a plant in, but it's just strictly for your crystals, sometimes bury them back in, give them back to Mother Earth for a short time, and then set a timer, put it on your calendar, and 4 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever later, pull them out, rinse them off, see how they look, how they feel. Selenite is the biggie right now. And I have so much selenite, it's insane. I brought one little one that I could carry, but a slab of selenite, you can get them in any type. I mean, rods, slab, spheres. In fact, there's one sitting on this desk that I'm borrowing. But a selenite is high vibration, just like apophyllite. It's a stone that doesn't have to be cleansed every time you use it or wear it. So you can put anything. So every night I have slabs of selenite like this big. I have them on my dresser. I have them on my jewelry box, and whatever I've worn that day, whether it's been, pendants, rings, whatever else, my amala, and I will just put it on selenite to cleanse and recharge it for the next day. If you feel like your stones need a little bit more of an oomph to them, then basically put selenite, put them on selenite, grab a Lemurian seed crystal and put it right next to it and point it towards the crystals, and it'll cleanse and recharge them at the same time. Or get a really good double point, a double terminated point, or something like that, or what's called a generator. If I teach a whole class on how to make grids, and a generator is any stone or a crystal that's gonna have a flat base and then pointed top. Especially if you can get one with 6, which I have a citrine that's pretty amazing that has the 6 on the top. But that's going to be your generator. It's going to not only power your grid, but it's also good if you put that with the selenite, whatever else, it can re-energize the crystal. So no on the salt. I think the only time I was telling Judy that I've ever used salt is when I do Reiki. I never do Reiki without crystals. I usually have crystals either under the table or sometimes on the person, or I place them one at a time in their left hand, which I'll explain why the left in a minute. But at the bottom of the table, underneath the table, like on the floor, I have a bowl of salt water, and right next to it, not in it, I have a black tourmaline. And if I'm pulling energy from somebody and really helping to cleanse them from whatever they may be dealing with, then I literally am giving it to that salt water. That's the only thing. I don't put the stones themselves in salt water. The only time I think I've ever done that with one stone that totally just changed color, and I was just like, wow, like it's so absorbed so much, is I got really fine Himalayan pink salt, put it in boiling water so it dissolved, waited till it was completely dissolved and cooled down, and then literally dipped the stone in with a ladle, literally for like 10 seconds, 50, whatever else, and brought it up and did it one more time, and that's it. And that was only, and it was a stone, like I said, it was one that I was using for somebody to clear some negative energy, and that's the only one. But a lot of them, like I said, you don't ever want to do that. I've done that I can think of, like I said, one particular time for some reason, instinctually, that was what it was telling me it needed, but otherwise I would never use salt.
So, didn't I tell you she's amazing here, wealth of information.
Talk.
Okay, I want to address also that they can help with detoxifying, strengthening the immune system, because you've had some real experience with that with your own health too.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the time I was younger, like I said, I've always loved stones, but when I was 18, I was diagnosed with leukemia. So that was my first kiss with death, maybe, or whatever you want to say. And I had one chemo treatment that I was told that I have to do. And it was such an awful experience. And everything in my being was screaming, don't ever do this again. And that's what I told them. And they said, well, you can't decide that because then you'll die. I said, well, I'll take my chances. They tried to talk my mother into talking sense into me. They tried to accuse her of not being a good mother when she couldn't, because I was 18, she couldn't force me. And at that time, I would go often, I would hike, and I would, make myself, even with how I was feeling, I would find stones and I would carry stones. And even then I was already a collector of some. And I started using stones regularly in that sense. Years later, after I kicked that, and there's a whole other story for that of how I did that. But years later, I was almost killed in a horse accident. So I think I was a cat my last life. I kissed death like 3 times. I still got 6 to go before I really leave. But I was trampled by horses. I died for 42 seconds. I was brought back. I had 9 broken ribs on one side, 2 on the other, broken clavicle, shattered spleen, concussion, you name it. Somehow my spine was spared though. And I still, had my bell rung, but I still had my wits about me. After I came out of intensive care, I was in a coma for about 2 days. And again, after that experience, because of the brokenness, by then I also used a lot of stones for different things, like howlite's great for bones and other things like that. So I was doing that. But 2.5 years later, I was noticing I was dropping things. I was having trouble with my grip. My insomnia was really bad. And I had always been somebody who had dealt with insomnia because I'm such a work type person, but worse than normal. And so I mentioned it to my doctor when I went in for a checkup, and she sent me to an internal medicine person who said, oh, we're going to run all these tests. And they tested me for rheumatoid arthritis and MS and, all the big lupus, all the big autoimmune, because otherwise I didn't have a lot of other symptoms. And they finally decided that because all these other things came back negative, there was this new thing. This is back in 2001, that they thought I had fibromyalgia. And I said, well, what exactly is that? And they couldn't really tell me at the time. It was still pretty new. But I said, okay, well, what do I do for it? And he said, well, let me tell you. And he gets out a prescription pad, writes me 4 prescriptions, 4, antidepressant, an anti-inflammatory, a sleep aid, and I want to say a muscle relaxer. I don't remember what the other one was, or something bizarre. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? I said, this is what you think I'm going to do this for how long? He said, well, I don't know. We don't know a lot about this. Some people think it's kind of all in your head, but he said, I did the trigger point thing on you, and you have 16 of the 18 trigger points that are sensitive or inflamed. And even though I didn't feel like I had whatever other than my hands. And so again, I said, I don't accept this. And I made the intention to not accept my diagnosis. Now, I'm not taking away from anybody who has dealt with that, because I have known people who have been literally crippled by fibromyalgia because it got to that point before they figured. But I'm stubborn enough that I was just like, so when I went outside, he said, well, suit yourself. I went out to make my copay. And she said, well, do we need to schedule for a follow-up? I said, I don't think so. I said, but do me a favor. Do you have a trash can? She's like, well, yeah. I crinkled up all 4 prescriptions, tossed them in the trash can. And then started looking up and trying to figure out, okay, what stones could I use to help detoxify? What stones could I use to decrease the nerve ending and firing? What stones will increase stamina and vitality to decrease that tiredness that I felt? That wasn't just my normal, because I work 60, 70 plus hours a week always. And started doing some of that and started making water charged or crystal charged water. And again, you don't put the crystals right in the water you're going to drink. That's also something you don't want to do because of some of them having high concentrations of other things. But there's safe ways to make what I call charged water or elixirs. Started doing that, started drinking charged water all the time. Then before I knew it, and if I would have come up with it, I would have patented it. They started making water bottles that had stones, like a separator thing, but had stones like in the bottom where you could see like a plexi on the bottom or something else. That's brilliant. Again, for the same thing. And those are the things I've done. And I've never owned that diagnosis. And I do not have a lot of the standard what people have, and sadly, some people that I've met, both in my program, otherwise, who have been literally shut down by this condition now that they do know more about it, and that it's not some psychological in your head kind of thing, but that it's triggered by a significant psychological and or physiological shock and trauma to the body. And they said usually within 12 to 48 months. And mine was barely, not even quite, about almost 2.5 years from the horse accident when I started noticing having some of these symptoms. So again, I used a very unorthodox way of dealing with it, just as I had with other things, and here I am. So
yeah, we're back to nature healing nature,
exactly.
naturally. And okay, let's get into some specifics on let's start with shungite.
Shungite. Yeah, the
shungite I put in my water, and you said, no, don't put it in your water.
Well, you don't, I mean, if you have a small polish and one that you've really cleansed, you can. It's not one of those, again, you don't want to ever do it raw or when it's flaky or breaking up. But shungite is kind of Russia's numerical stone that I don't know if they quite know what they've got yet. I don't know how much, because of the communistic control, how much media coverage goes over there, but I know people are going in droves and shipping shungite out. It's from Karelia, the region, right along the eastern side of Russia, closest to Finland, and goes all the way down. I often have said, I wonder if the war in Russia that everybody said is over black oil, if it's really over black shungite, because I don't think they know what they have. This very basic stone that feels like jet, it feels like more carbon. I have one and piece of really unique flat stone. It's one of my favorite little meditating stones. But shungite can change the molecular structure of water, which is why Judy was saying, it makes sense that you would do it. Well, what I have at home is I have an El Dorado spring water dispenser, and I have a shungite pyramid always sitting on top of it, because it doesn't need to be in the water to change the water. And the spring water is already good, but that's some of the things I've also done ever since my diagnosis. I shifted big time to bottled water, spring water. And I also got rid of certain things that were in my diet. So as much synthetic sugars as I could, but my mother, bless her heart, had a horrible, I was just sharing this today, grew up with, because of my grandmother, thing with sweet and low. She would always put sweet and low, a half a pack in her coffee or in her iced tea. So I grew up seeing her and having that taste too, and I got rid of all of that. I stopped doing all of that. And I think that also has contributed to this. But shungite, again, I have a cool thing I wrote up a little bit on today, because it's kind of, like I said, this new miracle zone. But again, it's a natural antioxidant that can enhance the human immune system and suppress the development of many allergenic reactions and bacterial infections. Let's just say I have a big piece of shungite that was under my bed all during the whole COVID lockdown. It also has electric conductivity properties that make it incredible for shielding us from EMFs and magnetic smog. So always have a big piece of shungite like next to a computer tower, which I also do at home, or under your computer screens. That's the other thing, it'll help with that. So it's a pretty miraculous, again, fairly new stone, just in the last, I know it's been less than 10 years, probably maybe 5 to 7. That I think, like I said, we're now seeing people are sending it. They're making tiles from it. They're doing whole floors from it. People are doing meditation altars or tables with it. I mean, I think, like I said, if they kind of know maybe what they've got, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Kind of like the whole moldavite thing that happened, with the meteor that fell thousands and hundreds of thousands of years ago in what is now known as the Czech Republic. Well, again, based on their limited access to information, but people started discovering it. If you've ever, and I didn't bring in any of my moldavite, I mean, it doesn't feel like anything from this planet. It definitely feels like it's extraterrestrial or came from outside. And what moldavite can do. And I watched moldavite in the space of 20 years go from $3 a gram to $32 a gram. And I'm not even sure what it's at now, because of now the lack and scarcity, because now the Czech Republic has said, okay, what is going on? Enough is enough. At first, we just thought we had all these rock hounds and whatever wanted to come dig this meteor stuff, something else. And so they've shut down access, or they've limited access. And that, of course, drove the price up. And we're going to see the same thing happen with shungite. So if you want shungite, this is the time to get it. So.
All right. Any suggestions for people might be challenged with a hard time sleeping or anxiety? Are there some stones that are good for that, balancing
So
your
many.
chakra?
Yeah, I mean, anxiety, blue lace agate, very soothing, angel light, a lot of the light blue ones, although they're good for the throat chakra, but they're also very good for anxiety, calming, but calming is just about all of that. Pink calcite, rose quartz, I mean, a classic, a lot of the ones for the heart chakra stone. There's so many. And then again, in terms of detoxifying or dealing with autoimmune stuff, looking at some of the things like ocean jasper, moss agate, there's a lot that just have natural detoxifying, that again, you can make an elixir with, you can put it with your water, you can do different things with it. And again, the intention you put into it, as I was saying before about the left, energy flows just like a clock. Everything has to go clockwise. Well, energy flows in a similar pattern. We absorb energy with our left hand. So you always want to wear whatever jewelry you want the most with your left hand. I always say that's maybe why we have a wedding ring or engagement ring we wear on our left, because we're supposedly, and that's why I wonder if those diamonds aren't good, look out. But you want to always have a stone or hold a stone first in your left hand to get the most from it. You might feel it get cool, you might feel it get warm, you might feel it tingle, you might not feel much of anything, but I guarantee it's going in. And then you give energy with your right, which is why we shake hands with our right. You give a gift with your right hand, or you can take, when you take your vitamins, take them with your left hand. If you're giving somebody something, give it with your right hand. So just the way that flow is. So, I mean, I could talk for, I mean, there's so many stones. I've written, like I said, an entire database of my own descriptions just from what I've researched or stones that I've used. And there's pretty much a stone for everything, multiple stones for everything. So I
So
guess it's people have a
two
specific.
things, Joe, before we open it up for people to ask you some questions. Two things. I'd like you to address, does it matter which stone is in your pendulum, that you use for testing? And then number two, I wanted to know, because I have certain stones by doorways at my house. You have done an awful lot of work in people's homes with crystals. I'd like you to just say what you suggest for that.
Pendulums are kind of interesting. So if you like to douse and use a pendulum, and I love dowsing, as well as muscle testing, but dowsing your pendulum used for muscle is just basically my higher self talking to your higher self. And so I always ask people, what will serve this person's highest good? So when I used to test for stones, and people would say, I just really feel I need a piece of citrine. I love citrine. And I'd say, okay, well, here's the bowl of citrine, or here's a tray of citrine. Well, how do I know what to pick? I said, well, just look at them first and see which ones kind of talk to you. They're like, really? And I said, yeah, just see which ones you're attracted to. With me, and I'll tell you this, again, this is my woo-woo side. I could pretty much look in a bowl or look on a tray, and I could tell people I knew which one would be the best for them, because it'd be like somebody shined a pin light on them. They would do this weird kind of like flash at me, but I would never say anything because I would want them to choose it. Ultimately, they would either end up choosing that one or choose several, including that one, and then ask if I could test for it, muscle test, pendulum test, etc. And I would always say, which of these stones will serve their highest good? And I would have them hold one in each hand. And then I would have them, change hands or whatever else, and it would follow it. Or we would test it that way. So the thing with pendulums, if they also are made out of a stone, there's two potential things that could happen. One, if that pendulum really spoke to you, then there's something about that stone that you needed. And if your intention is to say that this pendulum is going to serve my highest good, you can make sure that it's programmed to do that. And it won't matter if you're using a citrine pendulum and testing somebody else for an amethyst piece. When I did a lot of stones, however, I usually tend to use either my little metal pendulums that look like a metal teardrop, or a high quality quartz. Like I have a beautiful Himalayan quartz. I would use those most because they were non-conflictual. So it'd be easier for me to sense it because I feel so much from stones that it was easier for me to use that. But I've had other people, like I said, again, that intention that you put into it, or the reason why you chose that pendulum to begin with, if it spoke to you, there's a reason. People would often look at me and they'd say, but I just like the look of this one. So how can that be good for me? I said, there's a reason why you like the look of it. This other person might not have chosen that one because they may have liked the look of another one better because that one's better for them. So we think something that's cosmetic, but it's really the stone itself kind of giving us that energy, our energy fields interacting. It's not that the stone's necessarily talking to you, but in a sense, it's the energy reacting and it's saying this one, and it radiates. So I may see the flash. Somebody else may not see that, but they're drawn to one. And like I said, it was like 98 point, oh, maybe even 99.5 times out of 10 or out of 100, sorry, they would pick the one that I knew they were going to pick, or it was between two. And a few times people didn't do it because it either wasn't as cosmetically perfect or because it was cheaper, which I'm amazed. The one gal, I tested her for 2 pendants and she's like, and the one, it came out much higher for the other one. And I said, okay, put them behind your back, put them in hands and again, and put them so I can't see them. So she has them in, and it went to that same one. And she said, but that one's cheaper. And I said, isn't that a good thing? And she said, but wouldn't you want me to have the more expensive one? I said, this isn't about me. I said, it's not about me or the store making money. And it definitely shouldn't be about you spending more money to think that's going to be a higher quality. This is the one that's saying would be best for you. And the look on her face was just like, huh, like this disbelief, but also relief. So again, you'll sense it, and pendulums can do that. And what was the other part of the question you asked? Oh, gridding the house. Yeah, I've done grids for houses and properties. If you really want to have a great kind of a protection thing for your house, and also keep the energy cleansing, other than smudging and whatever else, I do it every season. So I do it every solstice, but I also next to the front door and the back door, and then in every 4 corner of my yard, I have a piece of a black stone, either black tourmaline or a black obsidian. You can use shungite, but they're more expensive. And like I said, there's not that many that are in big sizes yet. And then a piece of rose quartz, and then either a piece of clear quartz and or have it sitting predominantly, hopefully on a selenite. I also did that under my bed for COVID, and it's still there. But anyway, just by doing that by your door, it keeps the negativity out. So you'd be surprised of things that would normally come to your door. Salespeople, for some reason, don't. They accidentally skip your house. And people that do come in, if they have anything, it kind of gives them a quick vacuum and whatever else and brings the good stuff in. And then, like I said, the rose quartz is just that angelic, unconditional love and self-love. It kind of just enhances that energy in the house as well.
Oh, I love that. Wow. Oh, Joe, this is so good. What I'd like to do is go ahead and open it up to some comments or questions, and let's go ahead and switch.
Okay, Matt, I see your hand up. Your little Bitmoji hand.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe. You really are a crystal. I've just enjoyed the presentation so much. I want to get involved and I want to start experimenting. How do I do that? I don't want to, I can't imagine it's great to fill up my pockets with all kinds of rocks, but that's kind of my first instinct. Is it best to just try to, like, as we're introducing ourselves or reintroducing ourselves with the crystals and their resonance, how do we start? Do we start with one and see how that works with us? Where do we wear it? Do we wear it in a ring, a bracelet, a necklace? Do we wear it under our hat? Do we tape it to our heads? Like, where is like the best place to kind of start? Because I've been wearing this one. I showed it to you earlier, and I've just been focusing on just one crystal and a rock to just kind of just play with that. And because I really don't know if I have too many things going on at once, then how do I know if it's the jade, or if it's the hematite versus the the amethyst versus the tiger's eye versus the turquoise? There's just so many. So if you could give me some direction as to where to start, that would be amazing.
Well, yeah, and the easiest is kind of doing what you're doing in some sense. What for some reason you're drawn to, or you walk into a store and for some reason you just can't get this thing out of your head. There's usually a reason. I tell people what I used to do where I used to work is the easy way to start is kind of create your own, what I call chakra set. So in my class, I have them create their own chakra kit, and it can be, because there's so many stones for every chakra that resonates with them. And then what I call their 5 first aid stones. So they end up with a dozen. So 5 stones that for some reason really talk, like if they can't decide for the heart chakra, do they want the rose quartz or the pink, or do they really want the green jade or the green aventurine? Because both pink, whatever. Well, I say put one in whatever, then have one as one of your extra. But starting with a small set, and then like you said, the best thing is to either carry one at a time and or meditate with them. Mindfulness right now is huge. If you can just sit there, put one in your left hand, or if you ever want to use, like I did with Judy today, when she just needed both to be grounded and uplifted because she was kind of dealing with something, I said, put one on each hand. Then I call them your jumper cables. It's literally like getting one defibrillator, and so then you can hold 2, but you'll see what you feel. And that's a good way to start. And then make sure whenever you buy them from anywhere, whether it's a show or a store, a rock shop, whatever, cleanse it first and connect to it. You always, once you've cleansed it, you want to then hold it in your left hand, put it on your heart, put your other hand on top of it, and ask that whether it's a piece of jewelry or a tumbled stone or whatever else, and if it's a bigger one, you might have to do it with two hands, but basically say, I ask that this stone will share with me all of its wondrous gifts, and that it will serve my highest good, and that I felt like I was drawn to it for a reason, and I'm excited to see what it's going to do for me. And when you do that, it connects to your energy. I really believe that there's some sort of connection that happens, like a plug-in, and then you'll see what comes from that. And then just slowly start building your kit. Or your collection, the more you do. And every day, what's funny for me is most days I know what stone I need, and then I have to find an outfit that matches it. So I have to figure out what pendant or what bracelet I'm wearing or what, mala or whatever else. And then, okay, what do I need to put with that, and stuff, because somehow the stones kind of tell me. So yeah, they can be one you carry in your pocket, that you can put them in a medicine bag, you can wear them as a pendant, you can put them on bracelets. I usually have multiples on, I have multiple rings. And so really the flow will get there. If I miss one, like I have certain ones that I wear every day and then I rotate, I feel it. I feel naked. Literally, it's bizarre. It's become such a part of me. And every night, everything that I wear all gets put on a slab of selenite. So that's just kind of my routine. I don't think it has to be everybody's, but just something like that. But starting with a nice kit, taking somebody with you, or if you're a pendulum person, take your pendulum. Think, okay, I'm going to look at this group. I'm going to narrow it down to my top 2 or 3 and then test and then see what happens, and start from there. If they're not for some reason for you, or you outuse them or outgrow them sometimes, believe it or not, I have people all the time that come in and say, I bought this stone, I lost it 2 weeks later. I couldn't believe it. Okay, 1, you didn't need it, you outgrew it, or something happened, or 2, when they crack, I say, don't worry about it. If it's not one that's toxic, you have to be careful. If not, share it. Share the other piece, give it to your child, give it to whatever, depending on the stone, or give it back to the earth. There's things I think that sometimes happen that people think are a misfortune, and they're really not.
I like that. And didn't you say some stones don't work well together, just like some herbs don't work well together? And Diane, I'm going to love to have your question in just a second. This is so exciting.
Yeah, it's funny. Some stones will compete with each other's energy. It's kind of like they don't play nice in the sandbox together. For instance, the example I give a lot is amethyst and fluorite. And you'd think, oh, why? Amethyst is purple, fluorite's got this purple. Well, there's something about the two things, I think, with the crown chakra, that they pull each other rather than giving what they need to give to you. They compete with each other. So there's certain stones that you don't necessarily want to put together, or when you're making a mala or whatever else. But it doesn't say that if you love amethyst and you need that, and you happen to have, whatever to wear purple that day, because you're really trying to boost your crown chakra, your connection with the divine, or do amazing meditation, have the fluorite on a bracelet or have it here in your, field, and then have the amethyst, whatever. Just don't have them right next to each other. Because then, like I said, then they pull from each other. Picture 2 siblings, they can't stop messing with each other, and therefore they kind of forget about you. So
thank you. Thank you. Okay, Diane.
She's driving.
Well, me, Judy, I would have about 121 questions for her. But my biggest question is, can you sleep with them?
Definitely. That's what I was going to say. For people who are dealing with insomnia or whatever else, the best thing you can do, that's where a tumbled stone, again, is going to be more helpful than a raw stone. 1, they're softer, but 2, fall asleep with it in your left hand. It doesn't matter if it ends up wandering by the night and then ends up under your covers. It's going to go where it needs to go, or put some under your pillow. Howlite, buffalo white turquoise, better known as, great for insomnia as well as good for broken bones. But even just in general, sleeping with them is good. I don't say, sleeping with a whole bunch of jewelry on, but in terms of some stones, yes. Or put some under your bed if you don't want to have it in your bed, or you're worried about, whatever else. Even people have asked me about, with their children. I said, well, obviously don't ever put stones in the bed with them, or in a crib, but before they're old enough to be able to crawl out, so they can't put it in their mouth, put some stones under their bed, or hang a little medicine bag above, right? You have their mobile, but have something else. So stones, like I said, they will find you what you're needing or what you might be as a parent or anybody, and set that intention and then let it do its thing. I almost said it's magic, because to me it is magic, but it's definitely not dark magic or black magic. I mean, it's Mother Nature's healing magic. I mean, just like plants. So yeah, so definitely sleeping with them is a good thing.
Yeah, great
Okay,
question.
thank you.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, this is really exciting. There are these healing mats we have in the healing room that people can lay on, and I have one at home too. But I'll tell you what, I'll sweat like a hog on them at night, and they're full of jade, they're full of all kind of crystals. But it doesn't take much to really activate and balance out all the chakras.
Biomats are phenomenal, and if you get biomats, most of them are lined with amethyst, which I always wondered why they picked amethyst. I would see up by the head, but I'd be amazed. But it is very healing and therapeutic. But yeah, that's a lot of the biomats are amethyst.
That's great. Any other questions? If you do, just shout it out. And otherwise, we're going to have Joe on again. There is so much more to this that we're going to keep doing, and we're actually collaborating on a course on crystals that will be through Miracles of Health, but taught by Joe. So we're in a world of change it up, vibe it up, and be open to, just really be open to explore what crystal you're drawn to. What would you like? In her class, she's going to teach even more specifically and tailor make it to what people need for their own certain conditions or intentions. Let's just say that. But I want to thank everybody for joining in tonight. And Joe, thank you so much. And thank you for bringing all your crystals today. And I got to get some.
A few. These are the ones that told me they wanted to come. So I had to, honor that, because I have so many. I was like, okay, who wants to go? And the ones that kind of lit up, I was like, okay, they have to come for some reason. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful, let's say, crystal light evening. Find one of your crystals. I'm sure all of you.
Connect with Mother Earth right now. We have a lot changing on this planet, and she is not happy about some things. But for those of us who are tuned in, there will be, healing and protection given. And so that is there. So just know that. And so I think that's something that we all just need to do. And like I said, they can't hurt you. So unlike most things in life. And then one thing you always want to think about is whatever you do with no harm and no judgment. We've got to get away from that. I'm so tired of the us and them, or they're bad because of this, or they don't believe this, or they're scared of this, or these people should be banned, or these people can't love, or these people, it's constant. And, crystals are like, your favorite dog. They're unconditional, and they can just bring amazing energy. And I think if we could all kind of collectively do that, that's what's going to change things on this planet, is that collective positive light and energy. And that's what makes crystals work, is that piezoelectric. And like I said, they are an amazing source of contained energy, vibration, and light. And so there you go. So I got to give a shout out to, I see somebody's name on here, Rebecca, one of my graduates. Hi. So I'm saying hi. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. And if you need any other questions, send me some information. I can talk crystals all day long.
Thanks, Joe, so much. And we'll see you next week. We're going to have some more surprises coming up here. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.